Hello and welcome back to another one of our podcasts. I'm still Jack Revis and I'm joined again by Brad Abraham, Robyn Moore and Kym Ritchie. So this week we are going to be talking about the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme and the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme. So these two schemes have recently been extended / more money's been given out on them, which we can go through in more depth in a bit. So actually I probably should go from it now actually. So we're going to start off with the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme. So basically it's been extended to October 2020, but it's been slowly tapered from August onwards and July onwards. So from July you can start to bring back part-time employees and still claim it under the grant, but then also from August the way that it is working is slightly different. So the employers are going to have to start to pay like the employers NICs and the pension contributions, and then the caps will start to come down on what you can actually claim back from the government. But I'll put a link below with everything, the exact sort of everything we're going to be talking about to the HMRC website, so you can see exactly what's going on. So basically with this thing, guys, what are your thoughts? So we're going to talk about the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme first. So what are your thoughts on the time extension for this? Because originally it was 3 months, then it was 4 months, and now also extended to October 2020. So what are your initial thoughts on that? We'll start with you, Brad.
I think it's quite essential for this sort of time. Sort of staggers everyone back to work. Really, it's not all at one go, and it allows people to go part-time and potentially full-time if they can, but if they can't, then still stay furloughed for until they can, really.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. About you, Robyn.
Yeah, I think it's good, kind of gives some businesses more support like coming out of the pandemic, but I think the flexible furlough might cause some issues, just like people might sign up now unnecessarily just to get that flexible bit later on. So
yeah, I can see how that might happen. What about you, Kym? What are your initial thoughts on it all?
Obviously I was quite surprised it was extended, because originally it was just the 3 month and 4. I think it's really good because, especially from another point of view, is obviously it's good for employers, but employees as well. A lot of people are going to be struggling with childcare. So a friend of mine, she's furloughed. Her place of work is opening back up. She cannot go back to work due to childcare, but she can continue to be furloughed, obviously till October, but by then hopefully her little one will be back at school. So she was in quite a panic about that, so that's quite handy for that side of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I agree with I was surprised they extended it so far, like all the way up to October. I thought maybe it might get extended like another 2 months, but like till August or something. But yeah, the extension to October is quite a big extension. But as you say, it's going to benefit quite a few employers and so on. And the extension got announced before all the details about like the flexible working and all that kind of stuff. And I know that at first there was a lot of concerns of people saying, oh, it's not encouraging people to go back to work and all this kind of stuff. But there is still employers that can't actually go back to work, unfortunately, due to various reasons. But yeah, having that extension, as you say, Kym, it's really useful. But the incentive is still there with the drop in like the government funding, which we're going to talk about in a second. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it needed to be done. I know the economy obviously needs a big push again for places to be open, but we're not quite ready to be fully back in like full swing of things. Like we're still all at home, for example. We're not back in the office yet. We're not probably going to be back in the office till like July, but we're lucky that we can work from home. We can continue to do that, our services like that. So yeah, no, I think the extension was good. It was needed. So what about the actual government funding then? So as I just said, so the funding is slightly changing. So I'll go through a bit more detail now. So in August then, so the government will continue to pay 80% of wages up to a cap of £2,500, but employers will need to pay the employment, NICs and pension contributions. In September, the government will pay 70% of wages up to a cap of £2,187.50. And again, employers will pay employers' NI and the pension contributions and the 10% of the wages to make up to the 80%. So the employees still get the 80%. And then in October, the government going to pay 60% up to a cap of 1,875, and then again employers, NICs, pension contributions, and then 20% of the wage is going to be paid by the employers. And also with the funding stuff, people can start to go back part-time, and then basically the government will fund any hours they're not working, and then obviously the employer will pay hours what they will be working. So with all those figures I've just chucked at you, what are your thoughts on those fundings? So obviously government funding is dropping. For people that are still on furlough, potentially employers that aren't open yet, how do you think they're going to feel? Like, what do you think about it? But start with you, Robyn.
Yeah, I think it does kind of stop people from relying on the government as much, and so kind of gets them like going back to work and more enthused about going back to work, so they can get the money for it. But if places aren't open yet, it does kind of beg the question, like, if they're not working, how are they going to pay that extra money on top of all the rates and everything they still have to be paying? Yeah,
definitely. What about you, Kym? What do you think?
I think obviously when certain places are allowed to open, like, I mean, talk about shops and things like that, there's no reason for them to not be able to earn money. I don't know what the level of money will be, obviously, but the government is no longer saying you have to be closed. That potential to earn money is there. But for example, the first one that comes to my head is driving instructors. There's no way you can social distance. So maybe maybe it will change again, and certain industries might have to still be closed, and the help will only be for them. Mm-hmm. I don't think the help can be there for everyone, you know, for much longer, because at the end of the day, we want the economy back earning money, not just taking it from the government.
Yeah, definitely. What would you think, Brad? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, sort of same again. So it's like kickstarting the economy back going again, encouraging people to get like a business plan in now for the actual contribution to their wages that will be in September.
Yeah,
so it allows people to sort of plan ahead and give this time to them. But I think it's just sort of a blanket for everyone at the moment, and then maybe specialise in certain companies when they close to the time.
Definitely. So I think also with this, so with the government funding, I think there might be now, with it dropping, a potential there'll be a higher redundancy rates coming in. So obviously the whole point this was put in place in the first place was so there wouldn't be any redundancies. But I think with this dropping, and as we said, those industries that aren't going to be reopening for any reason, or they can't, there may then start to become redundancies, so the unemployment rate might actually start to increase. Because like you said, Kym, if companies aren't got any income at all, and then they've got to start paying that extra percentage of wages, then they might not be able to continue to do that. I think if you wasn't using the furlough scheme, you may be able to talk to your employees about what you pay them. They might be able to come to that, but I think the whole time you're claiming from the government, I think that you're going to have to pay that extra to top up to 80. Otherwise, you'll be non-eligible for the other side of things. Because there is a few still industries. I think zoos, for some reason, I think they've been told they're not allowed to open until further notice.
Yeah, so the government's going to have to fund them, aren't they?
They're going to have to, because they've got people, they've got to look after animals, they've got to feed animals, and all that. So, and like flights, airplanes, all that kind of stuff. I know they keep trying to say they're going to start flying again, but who's going to want to fly? Are people going to want to jump on a plane? Because there's talks of, if you go abroad, then when you get back, you're going to have 2 weeks isolation anyway. So that's potentially a 2 week holiday, 2 weeks isolation, 4 weeks potential of holiday from work, depending on if you can work from home or not. Then our employer's going to want to allow 4 weeks holiday. And so I think there's going to be a few things that are going to have to look at with the
job. Like, I think if some companies are allowed to open, but they have such a small premises they can't do the social distances, and that is the new normal, that's not the government's fault as such, because it's part of the health, and nobody's made that happen as such.
Exactly. I think a good example of that is pubs. Those small little pubs that have been around for years. They probably normally on a Saturday night have, 15 people or 20 people, but they're absolutely rammed. So to have social distancing, they might only be allowed 4 people in there.
Yeah.
That might include the bar staff.
You could have an empty bar.
Yeah. So places like that might not be able to reopen. So the funding.
But what is the answer? And is government funding the answer?
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How long can the government prop us up? I
Mm.
know they've done a lot. I'll give them that. They've given out a lot of money, but at some point that's got to stop because it's inevitable. Our taxes and everything in the next year are going to go up because we have to. Everyone's got to start paying us back. So the more and more they keep giving out, the more and more the taxes are going to increase. So at some point it's going to have to stop. But talking of that kind of stuff, so have you guys, has any of your clients spoken to you about this extension and the funding drop, or not at all, or has no one really spoken to you yet? It's quite new. It's only like a week old, this sort of thing, but I don't know where.
A couple, mainly just about how much longer the extension's for.
Okay.
Because I've got someone who's in the process of going back to trading, hopefully by the end of this month, but whether or not everyone employed will be coming back or not. But I think it was just that safety blanket. They wanted to know when they were being helped to, but they're planning to go back well before that.
Right. Okay.
And I spoke to someone about the coming back part-time as well, because that's a restaurant and they can reopen soon.
Yeah.
They probably won't need the same staff, whether that means everyone on part-time or somewhere that I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Brad? You had anyone or not?
Yeah, I spoke to one client before the official guidance come out. There's a lot of speculation online going around about what people were predicting was going to happen. I think it's pretty close to what actually has come out now, but I think the actual guidance that come out from the government is a bit longer than what everyone predicted.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a bit more gradual than as steep as everyone thought.
Yeah.
Which I suppose benefits the employer and employees a bit better now.
Yeah, back to that point. And what about you, Robyn? Anyone spoken to you yet? Or?
Yeah, I spoke to one client, but it was basically just saying like that it is extended and that he can like gradually go back to work, like flexible working. So that's all really was.
Okay. But yeah, if I spoke to a couple, one of the ones that was quite a good highlight for me was I spoke to a director-only company with the stuff dropping and then them having to start paying stuff. We actually had the conversation of that if you go back to work now, instead, because he asked me about coming back part-time basically. And I said, well, look, if you come back part-time, you could potentially get this amount, but if you come back full-time, you'd actually earn quite a lot more than because they're on £500 anyway, currently getting back from the government. But if you come back, he's going to make more than that anyway, especially with the part-time bit, because he said his business is still running because there's another director that's running the business who isn't, it's in construction. They're not construction. They're just like a silent director. They're running the business and they're actually outsourcing all their work currently. So the business is still getting income, but they're paying contractors to do all this work where actually they probably should just not furloughed and just carried on. But that was the decision I made there. So yeah, and again, there's been a few questions about the flexible work. I think that was a good one from a couple of shops I've spoken to. They said about, it was probably the same shop you might have spoken to, Kym, about coming back part-time, bringing a few people back. So yeah, I think, as you said, I think most clients are happy with what has been said and what's been brought out. So yeah, that's good. That's a good thing there. But okay. Next one then, so the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme has been extended, or so that another grant has been made available because they're paying 3 months out each time in just one hit. So it's technically been extended to August and it's been paid out in August, this next grant. It is lower. So this one I believe is 70%, and it's capped at 6, 7 something. I'll double check that, but again, there'll be links down below just to check all these numbers. But so what do you think then of the drop in funding for this one? So bear in mind, self-employed, they had 3 months capped at the 80% of their net profits, capped at 2,500. Now they're getting another 3 months, but capped lower. I think it's 70% and capped at 6,000 something. So what are your thoughts on that one? So what about you, Kym? What do you think? Don't compare them to the other scheme yet.
Yeah, I know. I still think it's good, and I still think it's good for self-employed. And I know ours is October, and theirs is just to say August, September. But again, it could be extended. You don't know. It's ever changing. So I still think it's good.
Brad?
Yeah, I still think it's good. And although it's dropped, I think it's fairer because obviously everything's kickstarting again. So they can still work as well as if they've got this and been affected. So
Yeah, definitely. Okay. What about you, Robyn? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely beneficial because quite a lot of people aren't able to currently work, like hairdressers and that. They can't do anything right now. So that even though it's dropped, it's still a good income for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and just to confirm, I'll just double check the numbers, but it is 70%. And it's capped at £6,570 overall. So, yes, I think I like Brad's point there of it is still fair because the whole time through this self-employed could still work, which I know a lot of them couldn't. Again, back to driving instructors, hairdressers, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them still could, because a lot of construction people, they continue to work. There's been a lot of that still. Window cleaners, for example, we had one around my house yesterday. They've been cleaning windows throughout this whole thing. So some of them have still been able to work, and they can still claim this claim. But the ones that haven't been able to work, that's where they've been sort of scuppered a little bit, I would say. But the drop, again, with the economy and all that, it did have to drop at some point, unfortunately. But these, again, going back to a previous podcast, self-employed can then get the universal credits on top of this as well, if they're eligible and if they're not getting too much and so on and so on. But yeah, I think the drop is fine, even though some people will obviously disagree, and also the extension overall. And in my opinion, I do not think this will be extended again, but that is my opinion. They might do it, and they might drop the percentages again, because obviously this one's only been 6-month scheme, and I'm going to move on to the next one now, and obviously the other scheme is slightly longer, so there might not be that bit there, but I don't think they're going to. I think it was quite a big push that they did this one. I don't think they were going to extend it, but I think there was a little backlash. So, okay, so moving on to our last question then, which it's been hard not to answer, but how do you think then the two schemes currently compare? So the coronavirus job potential scheme and the self-employed income support scheme, and why do you think the government have done it this way? So, go on, Kym, you start because you almost answered this earlier. So
yeah.
What you want
so I think although it might not seem as good to the self-employed in general, some of them, not all of them, can still work. Lots of my self-employed clients are working. Some unfortunately aren't. So it is fair and it is unfair, but the majority I think is fair.
Okay.
And the reason they've done it is because I know someone who's worked the whole time and they also got the grant at the full rate. If I was someone who was self-employed and couldn't work and got the grant at the full rate, I'd feel that was unfair. But at the same time, unfortunately, they're in that industry where they can. And it's just not fair, is it? But
no. Okay. What do you think, Brad? Oops, sorry.
Another thing that I had a discussion with a friend is comparing it like employed, self-employed and everything. People saying about they're at work, and they've got to go back, and some of people have had to sacrifice holidays.
Yep.
So I totally get where she was coming from, and I can see her point. But I said also, from my point, and other people who've been working this whole time, we're not going to get extra holiday because we have to work through all this. So in a way, I know this is our normal, it's a job and you work, but we've kind of had to work all through this, which is fine. My friend hasn't, so she's then going to kind of want not extra holiday, but holiday when actually you've been at home for, how was it, 3 months, 4 months, potentially longer. So does that mean we get more holiday added on? No.
You don't. So it's quite simple. Worth asking, yeah, definitely. What do you think, Brad? How do you think they compare and everything?
I think they compare as in both can now sort of go back to work. So not as easy as it would be for self-employed to carry on. But like the employees, they can work part-time and then still get the extra hours that they normally would work on the job potential scheme. But I think, again, it's going back to like another podcast we did. It was just like, is it fair? And I think this is the best way that they could do it, to sort of suit everyone's needs and not make it too unbalanced.
Yeah, definitely.
Without damaging the economy.
Yeah.
You, Robyn, you got any extra thoughts on top of that?
Yeah, I do think they've definitely evened out, just like with the flexible furloughing and everything, like, because obviously the self-employed could work all through it, and now like the employed can work as well as being furloughed.
Yeah.
But then it is kind of different for the employed that can't work, in terms of the drop. It's definitely more significant in terms they have to pay it rather than they don't get it.
Yep.
But then they did get it more before, so it's kind of like,
yeah, there's
swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I do agree. I think they've done it correctly, because I also think with the coronavirus job retention scheme, that's mainly going to be companies that in general would have higher overheads than self-employed, because, for example, they most likely would have an office or premises which they're still paying out for and all that kind of stuff. So I think there is that fair bit. So the company's still paying for other overheads, but obviously they can get that back for a bit longer. So I think there is that bit to look at as a general. Obviously, that's not always the case. The self-employed might also have premises and all that. But yeah, I think because the self-employed could always work and claim at the same time, I think that's probably why it's been done like this way. Even though the coronavirus job retention scheme is longer, I think that's probably why they've done that. And there is, as I said, and going back to other podcasts, there is more opportunities and funding for the self-employed that they can claim. So I think it's a so-so, and it really, people are going to disagree with us, people are going to disagree with government. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I think they have got it just about right. From an outsider's point of view, obviously we're not claiming on either of these schemes, so we're obviously all working, and I think from looking at it from an accountant's head, I think it is quite fair. It does seem to work. But yeah, as I say, not everyone's going to be happy with it. So
yeah, I think everyone would want a bit more or something a bit different, but
yeah, definitely.
That's life, I suppose, as well.
Unfortunately, so yeah. Okay. Right. Well, is there anything else any of you guys want to bring up, or all happy with that?
Oh, maybe we'd feel different if we were in this situation. Like my friend talking about her holidays.
Yeah.
I can see her point of view, and if she didn't have to sacrifice holiday, I'd think, oh, that's good for her.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it from your point of view, when the shoes you're in, it's kind of different.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with the sacrificing holiday, that is something that employers can ask.
Yeah.
Of employees, I think you have to give, say, double the amount of notice. For example, if I wanted you to take a week's off, I have to give you 2 weeks' notice. So it is something they can do.
Yeah. She was asking me all about it, and I said, I know it doesn't sound fair, but it's right. That it's
but
allowed,
at the same time, they'll get paid 100% for that week. If they so that is something they should have had to do. So yeah, getting swings and roundabouts in it. But then, will she want to use that holiday further down the year? Because currently I'm trying to think, I've got a holiday, I don't know what I'm going to do with it except sit at home again. Yeah. So hey. Anyway, okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining us, and thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, and follow our social medias and all of that kind of stuff, because we're still posting lots of stuff, and we should have another podcast for you next week, so make sure to check back, and we will see you then.